Good afternoon or good morning to everybody who's joined today. My name is Mike Carson. I head up pre-sales and account management for Innovation Group, and I'll be taking you through the presentation and demonstration today. And I thought I'd try to make it theme-based, although we'll cover a lot of things throughout the demonstration, and I will make most of this an actual live demonstration. Theme being, with, as it's stated here, with enabling technology in place, claims efficiency, effectiveness within your organization with your business partners is key to continual improvement in customer satisfaction and lowering of claims costs. Certainly something I'm hearing a lot while I'm out there talking to prospects and also with our customers. So with that, we'll move forward into just a housekeeping slide. This will be recorded, and all the participants today will distribute that out to you afterwards. And also, if there's any questions you may have or ideas or comments, suggestions, we welcome that. And off of the go-to webinar control panel, there's a little section called questions where you can click open it up to send a question along. So we encourage it. We look forward to receiving some of those and getting responses out to you. So just a couple of things on Innovation Group as a starter. As I said, I'm just going to go have a couple of slides. I'd like to have most of this be a live presentation through the demo. For those of you who may not be too familiar with Innovation Group, we are a software and services company. I represent the software side of the house, but we are tied closely with our BPS services or outsourcing services. Some of you may be more familiar with that terminology. We were started in 1997, so we've been around for a long time. We have 2,400 roughly professionals and 400 that are dedicated into the technology group. And we are focused solely on the property and casualty space. U.S. earnings of $312 million between the two organizations, and we are publicly traded on the London Stock Exchange. We operate in all the major markets in U.S. and Canada, U.K., Germany, France, Spain, and so on. One of the interesting things about us is that where we do have our own business process services and centers, we do actually process roughly 5 million claims annually, and we use our own software to do that. So what you'll see today is the exact same software that we're using in our call centers to manage claims on behalf of others. And we do have a full suite offering, policy, billing, rating, claims, analytics, supporting both personal and commercial lines. The focus today is obviously is around claims. Okay. Carriers like you, so just a little bit of a mix of some of our current customers. I think just one thing to notice in here is that a couple of Avis Budget, JM Family play in the auto space, but it's kind of in sort of niche areas with rental and gap insurance. We like to have them on the slide because what it shows is that the configurability of our system. So we've got certainly out of the box P&C, but it's highly configurable, easy to do that to handle some unique needs of our customers. And each one of you would, of course, have some unique needs as well, which makes you different and special. So what is the main office insurance solution suite? We call it the Rule of One, which we feel is a real differentiator for us in the market with our competitors. Where we share one common data model, one rules engine, one workflow engine is shared between both our policy and our claims applications. And so what's really interesting about that is as organizations look to replace core systems, if the biggest pain point is on the claims side, well, they can roll out claims. And when you get the installation, policy is there, but it's sitting there with nothing to do. You can later then turn that on when you're ready to embark on perhaps a transformation around policy. Analytics is also something I'll touch on at the end because it's so important as it relates to both policy and claims. And what we have is basically a feed that goes directly from both policy and claims to it. It comes out of the box that way so that once you implement claims or implement policy or both, you've got basically on the claim side, you have 200 KPIs, analyses, et cetera, that are available in there for you day one. And for the full suite, you've got roughly 500. Let's focus in a little bit more on the claim side now. So this is a full claim solution. So I'll kind of talk around this. On the sort of bottom left-hand side is what we have is portals. And so We've got our own portal, but equally, oftentimes, a lot of our customers have invested heavily in their own portals, and they like them, and they want to continue to take advantage of that, and that's just fine because given that we're sitting on a service-oriented architecture, it's very easy for us to then, your consumers or your agents or whatever to use that same thing they're used to, but then behind the scenes seamlessly have that fall into the to the claims application and basically follow any kind of rules and triage and things like that that you would want to have happen to kick off the whole claims process. Equally, Insure Claims does have its own first notice of loss capabilities. I'll show you that today. In the center to it all is Insure Claim, and as you can see, we're all familiar with the claims life cycle. So we've got the intake, the assign, investigate, evaluate, negotiate, settle, subrogation. What I like to point out underneath that is that so we've got the full broad spectrum of capability within the claims application, and sitting underneath that is what we've got the Innovation Group Auto and Property Network, and then third-party auto and property network. So that one of the differentiators for us is we have the BPS side of the house, so we've got our own network. So you're able to take advantage of those networks if you'd like to. Equally, you may have your own networks, and we could use a combination of the two. So we can come prepackaged with those networks already inside the claim solution. And as I go through the actual demonstration today, you'll see that I've put in a few of those of our own shops, so you can see how that works within the application. On the top side of it, you've got basically the arrows denoting that we've got an automatic feed, or what people call extract, transform, and load into our Insure Analytics. So you can take advantage of the file drawer that's off on the upper left-hand side, where we've got sort of have these file drawers of the different types of KPIs and analysis. We want to group them into specific areas so it makes it easier for you to find the information and the dashboards and the KPIs that are most important to you. And then just way up on the top here, you'll notice that we've got a spatial key denoted from a value-add vendor perspective. They play heavily in the around sort of CAT management, being able to be proactive around what trajectory the storm is coming at you, what impact it may have on your portfolio. So it's both a before the event happens, so you can be proactive with your policyholders, and then an after the fact. So after the storms hit, what has the actual impact been on my policyholders, and then it ties into being able to dispatch and get folks out to those houses to start to interact with them expeditiously. Lastly, on the right-hand side, you've got Insure Policy. As I mentioned, we certainly have our own policy solution, but oftentimes we're integrating with an existing policy solution, and we do that all the time. And that's really just seamless, and I'll point that out more in the actual demonstration side of the house. So I thought I'd take you through a couple of scenarios today. I'll talk about the scenarios, and then I'll go through and do them, and then we'll come back at the end of it and say, well, what does that all mean? So I'll go with an auto. I want to kind of hit, hopefully, the whole audience, so we'll do an auto theme as well as a homeowner's theme. So we'll do a two-car accident with damage to both vehicles and a third-party injury. You'll see automated dispatch and or communication to policyholder agent, in-house adjusters, managed repairers, and external appraisers. You'll see that we have some automated interaction with ISO. And then what we'll do is we'll display an electronic data exchange of estimates and photos that have been uploaded. Those could have been uploaded from an internal source or could be an external source. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and, as long as we're good with everything from a coverage perspective and what we've received in, then we'll what we've investigated, we'll go ahead and issue a payment. And supervisory functions, I may actually come back around after the homeowner's part to kind of cover both. On the homeowner side, we'll do a multi-state Northeast catastrophe. I think we can all appreciate, we've seen a few of those with the winter storms, or not appreciate, I should probably say. We'll establish a CAT event because we really want to highlight the catastrophe and event management capabilities that are inherent in the system. We'll enable a CAT team, so we'll turn that CAT team on basically to address the CAT. And we'll show you how we can do a quick FNOL in a case of a CAT, so we'll shorten up that first notice of loss to get the dispatch process going more expeditiously. And then we'll show the automated dispatch and communication to the policyholder agent, CAT team, and in this case I'll use an external CAT adjusting company to help us out in the field. And what I'll also do is show you that have the actual CAT adjusting company or external party come on directly to the web application and perform some of their functions directly. I think we can all appreciate that's very much a streamlined process there. and cutting down on a lot of back and forth of communications. And lastly, I'll go ahead and issue a payment. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll shift to the actual application itself. So I'm logging in, and what it does is it recognizes my user ID and my profile to determine what it is I have access to within the application and those functions I can perform. What's been presented to me here is what we call work in progress or work in flight. The nice thing about this is that whatever claims you're in the middle of doing some pieces of work on and you weren't complete with that, let's say you're shutting down for the day or there was some sort of disruption, you'll never lose where you were on that piece of work. You can be brought right back to it at that point in time. So that's what this initial screen is indicating, that I had some work in progress. If I didn't have any work in progress, I'd be brought right here to my home page. Just a quick little talk track from a look and a feel perspective as it's pervasive throughout the demonstration. Right in the center is what's called my personal inbox. This is really, I think, important on the claim side. Think of it as your pending. So any person that's participating in working on a claim, this is there. So take an adjuster, for example. This is going to be always where they can come and look at their pending. Outside of any analytics or reporting and all that, they can come online into their personal inbox. There's a nice filtering capability on it, so you notice things like priority and stoplight status. So priority would be those high priority tasks that you want them to address, or claims. If you're showing any red light statuses, then what's that denoting is it's an overdue task, and I best pay attention to that. We also do some things around those tasks that go into red, and that you can determine whether or not you want those to be automatically escalated and routed up to a supervisor for them to be notified as well. All of these columns are sortable also, so I can sort on that. And so if I wanted to bring in let's say a property damage feature into focus, so you can see I've got all red and priority 1 features. I then can highlight that particular feature itself, bring it into focus, get a little bit of claim summary, task summary. I can decide to go right to the task itself or open the claim up in whole. If I go and activate the task, I'll be brought right into that particular part of the claim. I can do my work, finish that off, come right back to the desktop, and pick up my next piece of work. Okay, so a nice efficiency, I think, from a work management perspective. I don't have to do claim searches and fill in different criteria to get to it. I can work right from my inbox. We do, however, have a quick claim search up here in the right-hand corner. So if I happen to know my claim number and I want to get to it, I can do that very quickly, or of course I can do a claim search. On the left-hand side, we have what's called an action panel. And these are things that I'm going to do quite often. When I get into the the claims management component of this, you'll see things that'll change, and it'll show things like add note, add document, add task. And lastly on the navigation panel, you'll see it's really meant, it's self-explanatory. It means I can navigate to it. So if I click on something in navigation panel, then I'm brought into it, and now I'm in my work area, and I can start to do my work in here. So I'll pick up a particular team, and here I'm looking at sort of a workload management, work balance piece. We'll come back to this as a supervisory function, but for now, why don't we go ahead and launch right into the auto scenario. So I'm going to go and do add claim. And I'm brought into a initial name and contact search. I can change that, and so if I happen to know my policy number, then I can just change it to that, and I'll go ahead and type in my policy number. And do search. So here's where I've done that seamless search to, say, a third-party policy solution if you're not purchasing our full suite, or an incumbent, old legacy policy solution. That's all happening seamlessly behind the scenes. I can select on that policy and get a bit of policy overview and some coverage overview, and then I have the ability to actually action this here. So I can do add claim. I could also do add glass claim, which would be a shortened first notice of loss. And I can view claims. So if I wanted to take a look to see if maybe I've already had some claims in on this particular policyholder, I could look at that. We'll go ahead and put in the loss date on this. I'll do the 9th. Which you can see, I wanted to purposely hit that. We have an upfront duplicate claim check. I think we can all appreciate that, trying to understand if it's a duplicate or not. I can click on that to get more information. I could go so far as to open that claim. This will be a time saver, of course, if we get duplicate claims, and we all know that we've got to kind of sort out which is the right one. I have to close one down. I might have to do some other things to make it whole. I'm going to go ahead and do add claim. And I'm brought into a business process flow. And anything in red asterisks, and the red asterisks are probably maybe a little small on the screen, but it denotes that it's mandatory. I'm going to go ahead and pick accident and changing lanes. Any of the drop-down values as I go through would be things as through an implementation you all would define as to what you would want those values to be. We're going to make this a Florida-based theme for the auto. I've got to do something outside of the Northeast with the weather we've had here in Boston this year. So we're going to go ahead and do a search on the incident location. All right. So we've got the caller on the phone, and they're telling us about where they are. We can go into a satellite mode on this to help us really hone in and get precision on this, on the incident location. We can go so far as to get down to the street level. I find this to be more pervasive on the homeowner side because you want to get a street level view of the home at that time of the damage. At that time, you can actually see it, and also you might find out, well, is there a new swimming pool in the backyard I didn't know about? So we're going to go ahead and save that. And it's brought that address back down to me. This will become very important as we get into tying into that supply chain management piece, which is really the heart of the theme of this the demo today. So we're going to go in and just capture a little bit of information about the incident itself. And there's only one. By the way, I'm only going to answer anything that's mandatory on these screens for time's sake. Certainly, if you have questions on anything you see as we're going through, just send them through to us, and we'll get a response to it. You notice the action panels change. I have the ability to actually view coverages in first notice loss if that's something you want to be viewable to the person intaking the claim. If you do not, you can just turn that off. We're going to highlight if this was a multi-car, multi-driver, I'd have different, multiple rows in the tables. I don't in this case, so we'll move on. Here's where we can get quite a bit of information and do a lot of proactivity right through first notice of loss. Some may not want to do as much. I like to show it here because there really is quite a significant amount we can do to get proactivity going with the claim and trying to ultimately get it to close more quickly. We'll go ahead and we'll say this is a scoring mechanism. I'm just going to say the sides were damaged, so we'll get a repairable situation. Had I done a rollover, we'd see that it would take us down a total loss path. So the system is going to help guide us through. We're going to note where the damages are on this. So it said the side. Let's say they're claiming for damages. And here's where we tie in, even at the first notice of loss, to our, maybe we've got our own preferred network. Certainly, I've got some of our own innovation group preferred shops in here. So these are going to be your values also, by the way. In the demo environment, we've got a few in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a repair. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm looking for repairs in the closest proximity to the incident location. So back comes Dayton Andrews, Silver King, and Alderman's, all Innovation Group managed repair shops. It tells us how far away they are, and it tells us about their capacity. So the default search is basically an approved network in the closest proximity to the incident location. We can change that and open that up. We can add new suppliers. There's no limitation there whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Alderman's. And I have the ability to send instructions. Okay. And what's going to happen, you'll see this at the end of the wrap-up of the first notice of loss, is we're going to be sending an email out now to the shop. We can send out text also. So there's different ways we can communicate with our suppliers. With that, I'm going to move on to the next screen, to the Party Hub. I am going to just add one party because I want to show you the segmentation capabilities that we do have. And it's going to have a big contrast to what we're going to do with the cat scenario. So I want to give you a good flavor of the flexibility that's in here, which would be under your control through your implementation. And all I'm going to do, so obviously Bob Jones was sitting out here in our database. No need to enter him in new. Certainly if Bob Jones didn't exist, we would add Bob in to our database. I'm going to denote that he's claiming for vehicle damage and injury, and that medical attention was sought. And what I'm going to do now is it's going to be a wrap-up. So the rules engine sitting underneath the claim solution here is going to interrogate the data that we've just collected and make decisions on it. And these decisions, by the way, would be what you had set up as an organization during your implementation. So I'll talk through this just a little bit. What we have here, as you can see, is that we have the insured vehicle damage component of this has been assigned to Michael Palenko. The bodily injury component of this has been assigned to Ian White. We haven't assigned the third-party vehicle damage as of yet. We're going to kind of wait and see on that. And then we have Mike Carson as the overall owner. So I've done, a pretty granular segmentation around this. And then on the reserving, we can do initial reserving out of the gates as well. These would be your values that you would want to set based on your claim history or formula reserving. And then the other tab. So here's what we have. We've sent out the instructions to the repairer. We've also had notified an appraiser that we want that appraiser to go out, that it's going to be at the shop to be looked at. So this is Appraisers Inc. So these instructions have been sent out automatically. We are sending out an acknowledgement letter automatically also to the policyholder as well as the agent. And as you probably noticed down below, is we actually do fraud scoring throughout the entire claims life cycle, right from the start of first notice of loss. And you'll also notice that the action panel has changed yet again. So if I wanted to add any further notes at this point in time, I could do so, send any more outbound documents. I also have a scratch pad, so if I can't capture the full essence of the information I'm hearing from the caller through the structured data, I can simply type something in, right? Lastly, I can also email out a claim summary, okay? So we've got our claim number, we're good to go, and I'm just going to finish that off. It says, would you like to save the contents of the scratch pad as a claim note? I can say yes or no on that. So that wraps it up. What I'm going to do at this point to complete the auto theme on this is I've kind of progressed an existing claim. It was exactly the same claim I had done previously with the same kind of vehicle damage for both parties, that there was a bodily injury to the third party, and progressed it from the estimating standpoint as well as having received some photos in to get to the point that we're feeling pretty comfortable from a coverage and what's come in from the estimate to issue payment. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is a great example. I get to show you that work in flight. This becomes very important throughout the day as you get claim inquiries in during the day, that you have to shift focus so you can jump from one claim to the next and then go right back to the claim you were working on when you got interrupted. So I'm going to go over to this claim here that was set up previously, which, as I said, was the exact same type of scenario that I went through before. You can even see I used Bob Jones. So something interesting I'd like to point out in here is a couple of things so to pick up and work something that's been assigned to you. So we had the insured vehicle damage, which, by the way, would then show up in my personal inbox as a pending once this has happened. So I could have picked that up had this one been, this one was assigned to me. So this is actually my pending. But the way we can pick up our features and start to work them and bring them into focus is simply by highlighting on them in the claim summary and opening up that feature. Okay, so what you see now is that we're into what's called an insured vehicle damage spotlight. And then we have a bodily injury spotlight. We have a subrogation spotlight. So it really brings you into focus on that particular aspect of the claim. And what you can see is I've got these tasks that are just specific to the insured vehicle damage. I've got some completed activities. What you can see here is actually I had made a 24-hour contact, and I had done that within the SLA, or the service level agreement. That's more internal in terms of we want to make that contact. But equally, we can capture this type of thing with our suppliers also. So you can see my navigation panel's changed. If I jump in now into suppliers, you'll see the assignment made on this one. And I'll go ahead and select on Dayton Andrews, was the one I used in this case. And what I've got here is now you can see the navigation panels change yet again. And I can go into estimate. What I can see is I've received electronically that estimate back. So we had an interchange of data, something that had to happen through automation. I didn't have to key this stuff in. Certainly, we can receive the document as well, the estimate back as a document. But you can see here we've got the hours and the rates and then the parts total, giving us a total. As we receive supplementals in, we can do basically a compare on it. I won't go ahead and do that right now, but we can kind of pull up a side-by-side view of the initial estimate, for example, versus the supplemental, kind of make it easier for us to take a look at. And then, of course, from here I can also look at any documents that pertain to this also. So if I flip over now to my my correspondence area of the system, this is where I can come in and look at all the inbound and outbound documents. So up above, what you can see is we had received a photo in of the damages. So we can see the damage to the Corolla. And then we had done, as you might have recalled, we did some outbound documents where we sent repair instructions. We sent an acknowledgement letter, so we can go ahead and pull that up and take a look at that. So this would obviously be your branding, but just to give you an idea of how that works, we've got all the mail merging in there. So there's templates that you predefine. We can have electronic signatures on that. Obviously, adjusters would have their phone contact and all that in there. Okay, so so at this point, let me just go back to home base. So if I want to close out of the screen and come back to home base within the claims application is always claim summary. Okay, much like desktop as we saw on the home page, claim summary is home base within the claims application. And as I probably should have pointed out before I actually even went into the spotlight, which you can see we're trying to do an awful lot from a usability standpoint. We want to make it very easy for our staff to navigate to what they need to do. You know, we want to avoid multi-click. The idea is to have everything be about a click away. So you can see all of the tabs up here where we can look at parties, we can get a financial snapshot, we can look at any tasks that are currently open on this particular claim, we can look at any notes. I don't have any notes on this claim at this point in time. And I can get to all that information on the navigation panel as well. So at this point, what I think I'm going to do is I will go into to take a look at financials. Okay, so under financials, as you would imagine, we've got all the key things underneath there. I can go in and take a look at my reserves. Now that I've seen the estimate, I can find out whether or not I'm reserved, have enough in reserve on that. I can go ahead and click on my edit button and say I need to increase that maybe a little bit. Okay, so I've got a new outstanding of $3,000, and I can always see my reserve history in here as I make those changes. All of these changes, of course, flow through into our analytics piece, which is entirely, another area that we would devote a webcast to. So let's go ahead while we're in here. We're going to log a payment, and I'm going to pick the party. So we'll do Alan in terms of the vehicle damage. We'll select the risk, the coverage, the reserve. Again, we're looking at drop-down values, so these would be your values. Select repair. Well, let's say this is a, I don't know, I forget what the amount was in the estimate screen, but let's say we had a deductible of 500, and we'll do a partial on this, so we don't have any supplemental in yet. We can do multi-detail line within a single payment transaction, and of course, we can bulk multiple payment transactions across claims to single vendors or any entity for that matter. We'll go ahead and make a payment to Dayton. We're going to pick an address on that. They may have multi-address. And here what we do is we need to pick a payment method. So EFT. So you can see here, obviously EFT capabilities, and so the adjuster doesn't have to worry about the routing information and all that, the bank account information. That stuff is already set up in advance. They just need to go and select the payment method of EFT, and away you go. And for the demo environment today, I'm going to go with check. And you can see I've got my green check mark. You probably noticed that in the first notice of loss if I'm good to go to the next page. And then you can see the deductible has been applied. This is the payment total that's going to go out. And I simply click on my checkered flag to finish it. And now you can see I've got a transaction there, an authorized transaction. Certainly we've got, we set limits on multi-levels so that if a particular payment transaction that somebody was trying to make was over their authority limit, it wouldn't reject it. It's going to keep that transaction, but it's going to route it automatically to the supervisor for them to either approve or reject. Okay, so there's an entire payment life cycle that's inherent in the claim system. Okay, with that, I think I'm going to jump to the homeowner's scenario, and so let's go back to the desktop. Okay, and we'll go add claim. This, by the way, is all around branding. So if you've got multiple subsidiaries or you've got specific different brands, the point here is that you can have a different workflow for a different brand or a different subsidiary through the configuration tool. So there's a lot of flexibility around workflow rules and all those sorts of things, as you would imagine. So let's go ahead and do another reference number search, and we'll do ELI. Okay. So now we're going to go with the homeowners. So just like you saw with the auto side, we've got some policy and coverage information. I'll go ahead and do an add claim. Okay, we'll go ahead and just put in today's date, and away we go. We'll skip past that duplicate claim check. Again, we've got the couple of key mandatory fields on type of claim. Weather or environmental. And we're good to go. Now what it's said here is it's based on the information captured. It would appear that this claim may match one or more events. Do you wish to associate an event to a claim? I can say yes, and I'm going to say yes because we are going to say this is part of a particular CAT. And I'll get back to show you how the system picked that up, by the way, after I do this. So we've got Hurricane Denise. We're going to associate that. And what you're going to notice, if you remember the auto first notice loss, it had probably 6, 7 screens. Here we've got 3, but in reality we only have 1 we have to interact with. The idea is we want to get this through quickly, get it out to our partners, get it to our internal CAT team in this case. So this is just informational coming back from the policy system. So I'm going to move ahead, and all I need to do is basically denote what they're claiming for, and here we'll just simply say the dwelling, and we'll say building items. Save that. And I do want to just show here that in similarly to auto, we can tie also into our business partners. So if we knew in this case we wanted to get independents out, an independent organization to help us, we can do that here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll pick appraiser, and then what I'll do is a search, and I'm going to get CAT Adjusters Inc. Okay, and I will send a note to them. This is why I don't type much. Okay. So we've just sent that off. CAT Adjusters Inc. has got that, and away they go to assist us in helping to assess the damage, mitigate losses. This could have been I could stay in that, by the way, guys and gals, to send water mitigation services. There's no limit to the service providers we can tie into. It's the same exact way I picked a repairer, or a CAT firm in this case would be the same way you would select a water mitigation company, etc. At this point, what I'll do is I'm basically going to finish this claim off. And what you notice here is, if you remember on the auto side, we did a lot of segmentation. Here we're not, because if you remember at the start, I said in this scenario we turned a CAT team on. So what it's done is it's gone to a team, and it's a team that we've allowed a number of members from maybe all kinds of different teams in our organization, but we're rallying to the cause. So we've associated those individual people to a CAT team in this particular case, so we've got a lot of feet on the ground and a lot of eyes on things. So that's why you don't see that there was an individual assignment here at all. You can see, again, the reserving, and then the other, in terms of the dispatching that we did, scoring, obviously I use these guys a lot, the Joneses. And I didn't mention it before, but we do first-party and third-party fraud scoring, not just the first-party fraud scoring. Okay. So with that, what I'm going to do is, you'll notice here on this one we had an ISO, trigger ISO. I'm going to say no on this. But what I wanted to highlight here is there's 2 ways you can trigger that. It can be triggered automatically, and of course there's edits in there. If you haven't filled out all the mandatory information, the system will come back, or the integration with ISO will come back and tell you that, and you can manually request that, or you cannot trigger it automatically and let your adjusters be the ones that actually click the button to send it off to ISO. And that's both ISO claim search as well as CMS for Section 111. Okay, let's go ahead and finish that off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, we had sent out to the CAT adjusters, and what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to come into the system as somebody from that organization. So this is going to be an external party coming directly into the claim solution. to help assist in performing some of their tasks and duties directly into the claim system. So if you notice, it put the claim number right up here. I'm going to go right to it. Okay, you'll see that again. So I'm going to actually log out now. And I'm going to come in as a different user. Okay, so we're going to come in as password. Okay. So what you're going to notice here is that you can see I've got external adjuster 1. I like to keep it really simple for these demos. You'll notice navigation panel not nearly the amount of information that I had when I was in there as an internal user of the system. You'll notice that there's only a single task out here for their inbox. But the point is that your business partners can have their own tasks, their own inbox, their own pending that they can come in and manage. So we can send out, we can send out the external communications via email or text. But equally, in this case, they've got a log on. They could have their own pending, their own task to deal with, and that's how we can really tie in the SLAs in terms of the time that we're expecting them to complete their particular tasks to help make us as an efficient an organization as we can be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up a claim. Let's see, 15. So this is, I'm doing a quick claim search. Okay. Let me do this. I need to get that claim number that I had before. 1 second. And that was 3180. 3180. There we go. Okay, good. Sorry about that. Let me just get going back in as the external adjuster. Okay. All right, so let's pull that up. And this would obviously be your claim numbering. Different organizations obviously have their different claim numbering algorithms that are near and dear to them. So now that I'm in here as an external party, there's a couple of things I'm going to do with regards to this. I'm actually going to come in and upload a couple of documents. So I took a photo, I did an estimate, and now I'm going to come into the claims application and bring that into it so that the internal adjuster can take a look at that and before they make some decisions. So I'm going to go ahead and I will say I'm going to browse, and we're going to go to the desktop, and we're going to pull in the home damage photo. It recognizes it as a JPEG. This is going to be your list of what basically your document types or any sort of type of file, if you will, because we store any kind of audio files and so on. And we can upload that. Okay, so the external adjusters come in, they've uploaded the document, you can see it's in here, okay, from the CAT. And then equally, what we can do also is then we can upload the estimate. Now there's different ways, so I did a browse on let's say it was the external adjuster's network, could have been the desktop. So if I just sort of minimize this and minimize that and minimize that, what I can also do is I could drag, so here's the residential estimate, I can actually drag that down into the box also, so there's a whole drag and drop function as well. There's different ways we can get documents into the system. And by the way, most of the documents, are going to be things that are going to get scanned and indexed and just automatically show up into the correspondence in folder. But I want to give you an idea of an external partner that can interact with you directly. I'm just going to do other again, other, and here we're going to say it's the estimate. Okay. Okay, so now we have the estimate in there. So at this point, we can even have the adjuster have the ability to add a task and send a task off to the internal adjuster saying, hey, I've completed my work. We'll just say it's today's date. Oops. Right, for review. Okay, so we can say property damage team. Here we go. Okay, now that task has gone off to Leslie. So we can. So that's basically the external parties coming in and being able to interact directly with your organization. And again, it's going to be cut down, right? There's only so much you're going to want them to be able to see. You'd actually probably remove financials altogether. You know, a number of things you probably want not to have available. So we can remove these panels. But another way just to show you how we lock down is you can see again under financials here there's nothing around payments, and in fact even though they have access to reserve in this particular case, there's no edit button, so they cannot make any changes to reserves. But like I said, more than likely you'd keep all the financials completely invisible and not available to the adjusting company that's helping you. So that was a homeowner's example. I do want to come back real quick to the CAT because I never did show you how the system picked that up. So I will come back in as me to kind of finish off the live demonstration portion of this, and I want to finish off with a couple of slides around the analytics. So underneath claims here, we've got what's called event management. So it does not have to be a catastrophe. It could just be any event, maybe a large loss. You would want the system to be able to recognize this and have it within the system be able to group that all together. And then you can do some nice things with that in terms of assignments and those sorts of things. So we had done Hurricane Denise, as you guys know, as we saw. So if I wanted to look at this event that was set up, you notice we did the fast track FNOL. I have the ability to do a full FNOL or a fast track. You saw the fast track. If I did a full, you would have seen a couple other screens in that business process flow. For demo purposes, I leave this open-ended. Obviously, you're going to have a very succinct date period. I like to leave it open for demos because I like to get more claims volume. It makes it a little bit more relevant from a CAT perspective. If I only have 1 or 2 claims in there, it really doesn't look all that meaningful. The key thing down here is how did it identify it? Well, I said it was a multi-state Northeast CAT situation. So we had Connecticut, Mass, New Hampshire. That means that any claim that I would have logged in those states would have been picked up as long as it hit the claim type and loss cause combination. Okay, so you have the ability to get down to that level where you can get to a claim type loss cause level if you want to. Okay, the other thing you have the ability to do is not just state, but you may want to just list down to specific zip codes. So the system was smart enough to read the information coming in from the loss coming in, look at the event or CAT that's been set up there, and associate that. Now, if you haven't set up that event before claims start to come in, well, that's fine because the other part of this event management is I can go view claims. So I have the ability here after claims have come in. So you can see these have all been associated already. And you'll notice the paging mechanism, I didn't talk about that before. Again, from a usability perspective, we're trying to avoid scrolling as much as we possibly can for the end user. You can see I've got these that are not. So I can do a select all, or I can just specifically select the ones that I want to associate to this particular CAT after the fact. And it's just as simple as that. So the system is finding that for you. You don't have to hunt, you don't have to peck, you don't have to go ask for ad hoc reports to find this information out. It's all right here at your fingertips. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump back into the slide where, let's pull this back up. So at the end of the day, you know, we think we're being efficient and effective, but are we really? How do we know that? Well, we're only going to know that by really, truly measuring our business. So I thought I'd throw a couple of in here that sort of tie with the theme. This here is actually, and it might be a little bit hard to see this, but what it is basically a KPI of our vendors, okay? So what you can see here is it's going to tell us those that are working outside of the SLAs or outside of the threshold targets that we set as an organization. Green means that I'm good, that particular supplier or vendor is working within the expected, could be cost, could be durations, and then we also have an amber as well. And over here on the left, you can see whether there's a trending downward or there's an upward trend. So that's something also important we'd like to see, because, you know, let's find out why it's downward trending, and let's get a hold of that, you know, sooner than later. Let's understand that. Let's have a conversation. Next slide is, again, you know, the idea is with efficiencies within our own four walls, but also with working with your business partners. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is what we're hoping to see is that our costs are going to be trending downward. Okay, and that's what we're hoping to see. That's what we'll be monitoring. And if we're not seeing that, then that's when we need to go back and find out, you know, why is that happening? And then once we get the answer to the why, we can do things with that, right? So we can either do something operationally, maybe a training issue, or maybe something we can do with the solution. Maybe we need to build in a new workflow. Maybe there's some things we need to do from an automation perspective to help training. We all know that we're going to have to, you know, when we add staff and things of that nature, that we need to help them also. So that's what we would hope to see, is a trending downward on the cost side of things. And so what, right? So what are the benefits? So this is kind of after we've been through just what we saw. I'm going to kind of go back over this, is that we saw immediate assignment of work, automated, rule-based to our internal adjusters. And so we want to get the information to the right people at the right time. So what I really didn't talk about was the internal part of this, is that, you know, we can do a lot of things in here around getting it to the right person based on, you know, for example, in a homeowner situation, I'm going to probably route something differently if there's been 5 rooms that have been affected by a fire versus a stovetop kitchen fire, right? So we can read that information, the rules engine can read that and say we're going to give that a particular severity code setting, and then based on that severity code setting, that's going to route to adjuster A versus adjuster B. So there's an awful lot we can do. As long as we've collected the data, we can run rules off of it. And the quicker we get that to the information to the right person and to our right partners, the quicker we're going to be paying attention to our policyholders, and they're going to have comfort in that. We're going to make them whole more quickly. So there's a whole customer satisfaction and retention perspective to this. Other benefits that we saw was the electronic communication out to policyholders, letting them know that, yeah, we know about this. We took the call, or we got the information in. We got it in. You logged it in through the web, and we've got it. And don't worry, we're working on it. And that way we can follow up quickly with them. We talked about mitigating the loss as much as we can. So in the case of a flood or something that's water related, we can get some of our suppliers and vendors out there quickly to mitigate those situations. Again, a customer sat and a lowering of cost. And then in the CAT situation, the analytics. And I meant to have a slide in here to show a CAT dashboard or a CAT KPI, but we certainly have. Remember, I talked about those file drawers a little bit earlier in the call on that claim solution slide, and so we have a whole file drawer around CAT management, so we can again be proactive in getting people out to the policyholders that are in the most need, and prioritize that in conjunction with using some of our business partners. And get out there quickly and work with our policyholders, and reduce any lag time around that. Lastly, on the benefit side, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's about reducing costs. So what is all these things that we saw today and we talked about, as well as a whole plethora of other things that a solution can help you. Again, I kept this. We only had an hour together today, so I wanted to keep the theme fairly focused around efficiencies with our business partners, but there's a whole slew of things that can help you in reducing cycle times and settlement durations, and at the end of the day, reducing your loss costs, which then in turn should have a positive effect on your loss ratio. And then, customers are so important in today's environment. It's competitive out there, and claims is the touch point. Obviously, after somebody's purchased their policy with you, the touch point tends to be on the claim side, and you want them to have the best possible experiences they possibly can with you. And so a lot of the things, again, we talked about today lend itself to continued good customer service. And lastly, this is just informational for all of you. I'm sure many of you the conference season is coming up, and I'm sure many of you are attending a lot of the different conferences that are out there. These are the ones that we'll be attending, and so we'll look forward to meeting you at those. And I'd like to just thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend it with us. And as I mentioned before, we really do want to hear from you. We love any feedback, any comments, maybe we've spurred some ideas or thoughts. We'd love to hear those. And because we always learn mostly from our customers, and those are things we like to hear about and bring back into the fold here at Innovation Group. And as you can see here, feel free to also email me with anything as well. For arrange some additional presentations or some follow-up conversations. As I mentioned at the start of this session, we are recording it. We will be sending that out to all of you for you to have with you and to share within your organization. So with that, I'm done with what I wanted to cover with you all today. And like I said, on behalf of Innovation Group, we really, really appreciate you all spending some time with us today.